Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice for radio. So today, we are going to talk about Rattata, and indeed Raticate. Now, the new Evolution set is coming out very soon. In Japan, the set is being released. The spoilers are out. We know what the cards do. Now, we've already seen a few of these. I made a video about the B-Drill, link in the description, and I made a video about most of the EXs when they were spoiled by mistake in North Carolina, and again there is a link to that video in the description. But I'm looking today and there is one card that has particularly caught my eye. It is the new Raticate. I think this card could be really, really good. Let's start off though with Rattata. Now we've seen him before, and straight away this is a reason to play the deck. It's a basic Pokemon, 40 HP is low. That's a little bit upsetting, but 40 is good. Things like Galvantula do 30 to the bench. Rattata will survive that hit, although I suppose something like a Mega Rowdino that does 50 will KO him, but what can you do? But he's got an ability which might see play even in a non-Raticate deck. Facetious Fang, which, just so we're clear, that's a pretty cool name for an ability. You play Rattata onto the bench, you may discard all Pokemon tool cards attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Now it's only the active, not the bench. If you could choose any Pokemon, this would be a lot better. But this is really good. Your opponent's got a Fighting Fury bout attached, you can get rid of it, their HP goes down by the 40. If there is an EX with a Spirit Link attached in the active, you can get rid of it so they have to end their turn if they want to evolve. And of course, one common use for this, you will use it to discard a Float Stone attached to your opponent's active Pokemon to stop them retreating. This is a card that might see play as a tech in other decks anyway, and the fact that 4 times a game at least, you're going to be able to pop a Rattata on the bench, and I suppose unless you start with him, in which case 3 times a game, but then you can use Super Rod to recover him and keep doing this. Every time he goes on the bench, you can get rid of their tools. That's pretty sweet. Now, I have had multiple requests for a Raticate BREAK deck. Now, I've been putting it off a little while because I'm not entirely sure it is viable. We're going to talk about Raticate BREAK, but first, let's have a look at Raticate himself. I like him a lot. Raticate BREAK is weirdly similar, and by weirdly similar I mean basically the same as an old Drifblim that we saw back in Dragons Exalted, but better. Now the Drifblim did for 1 energy 50 damage for every special energy in your opponent's discard pile. Well, Raticate takes that and goes a little bit further. Now you are doing 60 damage for every special energy in your opponent's discard pile. And really, the magic number we're looking for here is 2 energy to KO a non-EX and 3 energy to KO an EX. Now, you've only got 60 HP, which is exceptionally low for any Pokemon. I mean, you're talking the same as your average evolving basic, like a Froakie here. But that's alright, because you should be taking a prize every time, so you're trading, 1 for 1, or maybe even 1 to 2. That's not bad. And it's a stage 1 single energy, so although it's not the fastest thing ever, this is not all that slow. Yes, the low HP really sucks, but stage 1 single energy. 60 damage times the number of special energy in your opponent's discard pile. 2 is 120. 3 is 180. If you get 4 in there, you could one-hit KO something like a Primal Groudon. The low HP is not that bad when you can recover him quickly. Single energy, stage 1. Even the first attack is pretty sweet here. 1 energy, 10 damage, but you get to discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. And as we're going to talk about later, this is a deck that wants to discard energy. This can be quite nice. Now, there are a whole bunch of decks that rely on special energy. Mega Rayquaza really needs double colourless. Mega Mewtwo really needs double colourless for Psychic Infinity. Now, I know Mega Mewtwo can survive on Psychic Energy alone, but that will slow the deck down. Vespiquen decks are going to rely on double colourless. Dark Energy with your Breakthrough Yveltal and your Yveltal EX and your Zoroark are going to rely on double colourless energy. Any fighting deck is going to be a bit silly if they're not playing strong energy. And let's not sleep on Giratina and Double Dragon energy. All of these decks are now going to have to be very careful. Now, your opponent might not discard their energy, but you know what? Maybe they've got an Ultra Ball in their hand. If they're thinking must not discard the special energy, brilliant. If you want to use that Ultra Ball, you've got to discard something else. They might have a Sycamore in hand and think, I'm not playing this Sycamore and discarding my whole hand because I'm going to have to discard 2 special energy if I do. Well, you know what? I'm okay with that because my opponent is purposely slowing themselves down. And that's alright. Now, of course, there's always ways around this. There are some decks like Mega Sceptile and Volcanion which are only going to use basic energy. Fair enough. Similarly, we've got the item card Special Charge, which allows you to put special energy back into your deck, but most decks are only playing 1 Special Charge, if they're playing it at all. So that means they've got to draw into it, and then when they do, they've got to try and make sure they're not discarding more special energy. 1 Special Charge in a deck, ladies and gentlemen, is not going to have a huge effect here. Okay, playing 4 Special Charge really will be awkward, but who's playing 4 Special Charge? And of course, fighting decks are going to be playing Raticate BREAK, which allows you to attach energy from the discard pile, and that will of course include strong energy. Most of the time, decks nowadays are not going to be recovering their special energy fast enough. I'm going to say it again, a single copy of Special Charge will get 2 energy once per game when you draw into it. It's going to be nice for a turn or two. It is not going to do everything you need it to. And free energy in a discard basically one-hit KOs anything that isn't a Mega EX. That sounds pretty nice to me. And while we're playing this deck, let's try and make an energy denial deck. Now, we have got Raticate's first attack that discards energy, but we've got some good cards. We don't have Xerosic anymore, that has rotated. But we've still got Team Flare Grunt, discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. We've still got Crushing Hammer, because that was reprinted in Generations, same set that reprinted Team Flare Grunt. Flip a coin, if heads, discard an energy attached to any of your opponent's Pokemon. And because of the secret rare reprint in Primal Clash, we still have Enhanced Hammer, which gives you an automatic discard of any special energy on your opponent's side of the field. Only 1, of course. So we've got 3 cards to get rid of energy. And, of course, we're already playing Rattata to get rid of tools. You see where we're going with this, ladies and gentlemen. We play Energy Denial. We play all of these cards to get rid of their energy, and that means we're not waiting for them to discard their energy. We can discard it off their Pokemon. And maybe there will be the odd game where they never play or discard their special energy, but really, do it yourself. Try and play a game. Try and play one of these decks that relies on double colourless and try and go a whole game without playing or discarding any double colourless energy. It's not easy. Now, of course, we can have a look at Raticate BREAK. He puts your HP up to a whopping 110, which is still abysmal. But for a double colourless energy, put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon until they've only got 10 HP remaining, which is basically a reprint of the attack from the Raticate in Boundaries Crossed, except for a double colourless rather than free energy, and that is significant. 1 energy attachment rather than 2. Hang on a second, that doesn't quite KO them. You're going to play Ariados. Ariados has an ability that poisons them. You poison them with Ariados, you attack with Super Fang, your opponent goes down to 10 HP remaining, poison kicks in, and they get KO'd. And you are KOing absolutely anything. My problem with Raticate BREAK is that it's essentially a stage 2, and you've got to manually evolve. It's a little bit too slow for my liking. That puts me off. Well, now I feel so much better about this, because regular Raticate has got an interesting attack and a really good attack. And in any game where your opponent isn't putting down special energy, or maybe isn't playing special energy, that's when Raticate BREAK comes out. And in any game where you're not using Raticate BREAK, you can still try and go ahead and use Bite from the Shadows, which is a ridiculous name, but hey-ho, and you should be able to do a whole bunch of damage using that. The other thing, of course, is, and I'm going to put this down again because I think it's really important, we play energy denial. We slow the game down so that we've got time to build up our Raticate BREAK, and also, if they play any special energy, sooner or later they're going to go in the discard and Bite from the Shadows comes out. Even if they're not playing special energy, Team Flare, Grunt and Crushing Hammer can get rid of basic energy. So you can just sit there getting rid of energy turn after turn. And yes, there are cards like Volcanion that recover energy from the discard, but most decks don't. This makes me feel pretty good. Now, there are, of course, some problems. Ariados is an ability, so he's vulnerable to the lock, and he is really by far the best way to do this extra damage. You could use something like Golbat, but then you've got to wait till the next turn, and you risk them being healed. And, of course, it's a one-time use rather than Ariados, which is every turn. So you really do want to use Ariados. But here's what makes me feel good about playing a Raticate deck like this. Even if you're not getting Raticate BREAK out, you're getting rid of energy, and you're getting rid of tools, and you're poisoning them. So you're playing an awful lot of disruption before you even get to doing 60 damage for every special energy in their discard, or putting their HP down to 10, and then hopefully KOing with Ariados. I'm hoping I'm not the only one that can see the potential here. Now, what I've been mentioning in this video is basically playing a disruption deck attacking with Raticate. But one of my favourite things about this deck, stage 1, or 2 if you include the break, but you could just play that as a one-off, colourless, single energy. So you could play this with absolutely anything. Maybe you go the double colourless route and you play it with Vespiquen yourself. Maybe you go ahead and play a Volcanion deck and you just put a 1-1 Raticate line in as a little bit of a tech. Maybe you play Raticate in a stage 1 deck with cards like Zeb Striker and Raichu as an example. You can play this as a disruption deck on its own, as a tech in basically any deck to try and take down decks which are reliant on special energy, or you just play it with a whole bunch of other stage 1s to make a weird kind of hybrid deck. And if you make a hybrid stage 1 deck, you can look at the decks you're expecting to see and just switch cards in and out to take it down. Oh, I'm going to be playing against a whole bunch of Rayquaza. Better go put a Zeb Striker in. Oh, I'm going to be playing against a whole bunch of Greninja decks. Better go for something like a Yanmega. See where we're going with this? I am a big fan. I know I only uploaded a video yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, but you know what? This card excited me a little bit too much to wait a day to do a new video. But if you haven't checked out my weird Japanese cards video from yesterday, make that the very next thing that you do. You know the deal, ladies and gentlemen. I say the same thing at the end of every video. Make sure you comment. Tell me what you think about Raticate, or Rattata, or Raticate BREAK. Click that like button, click that subscribe button, and then get yourself over to Twitter and follow me at the Wassy. And of course, the most important thing as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.